When you use the word mole, it can have many different meanings. It could be referring to a mammalian mole, mole sauce from Mexico, small patches on the skin that form due to collections of cells called melanocytes, or a quantity in chemistry. This video introduces the idea of what a mole means in chemistry and how we can work out the mass of one mole. If you have 12 eggs, you could say you have a dozen eggs. And if you are a caterer, you might have 144 eggs, which you could refer to as a gross of eggs. And if you had a cake factory, maybe an even greater gross of eggs, which is a dozen gross of eggs, which is 1,728 eggs. What would be truly gross would be if they were dropped on the floor. A gross may be abbreviated as GR or GRO. In chemistry, a mole refers to 6 times 10 to the 23 particles, which is a 6 with 23 zeros after it. The term mole can be written down in shorthand form as MOL. However, do not try creating your own abbreviations. For example, the capital letter M means something different. In 18 grams of water, there is a mole of water molecules. Can you comprehend that number of molecules? I can't, so to me, using moles as a quantity makes a great deal of sense. So, how did I know that 18 grams of water contains a mole of water molecules? Well, if you look at your periodic table, there are two numbers which are written down in each of the boxes with each of the elements. The smaller one is the atomic number, or proton number, and it states how many protons are found in the nucleus for that element. The larger number is the relative atomic mass. On most periodic tables, there will also be a key. I find students sometimes use the wrong number, so why not check using the key as to which number is which? The definition of relative atomic mass is not important at this time. If you look at carbon on the periodic table, it has a relative atomic mass of 12, and this means that 1 mole of carbon atoms will have a mass of 12 grams. What do you think a mole of helium atoms will have a mass of? If you have a look at your periodic table, you can find helium in the top right-hand corner. As you can see, its relative atomic mass is 4. This means 1 mole of helium atoms will have a mass of 4 grams. So how can we work out what the mass of 1 mole of a compound is? Firstly, we need to know the formula of a compound. So for example, what is the mass of 1 mole of water? The formula for water is H2O. So for every 2 hydrogen atoms, there is 1 oxygen atom in the molecule. So a mole of water molecules will contain 2 moles of hydrogen atoms and 1 mole of oxygen atoms. Using our periodic table, we can find out the mass of 1 mole of hydrogen atoms and also the mass of 1 mole of oxygen atoms. On the bottom right-hand corner here, using our key, we can see that the relative atomic mass of hydrogen is 1. So 1 mole of hydrogen atoms would have a mass of 1 gram. If we look at oxygen now, we can see it has a relative atomic mass of 16. This means 1 mole of oxygen atoms will have a mass of 16 grams. We know the formula of water is H2O. So again, it consists of 2 moles of hydrogen atoms and 1 mole of oxygen atoms. So we can write this down as an equation. 2 times the mass of 1 mole of hydrogen atoms plus 1 times the mass of 1 mole of oxygen atoms will give us the total mass of 1 mole of water. If we use these values and use it with this equation here, we can find out that the total mass of 1 mole of water molecules is 18 grams. What is the mass of 1 mole of carbon dioxide? Try pausing the video and see if you can calculate the mass of 1 mole of carbon dioxide. After you have an answer, start the video again. The formula for carbon dioxide is CO2, which means that for every carbon atom there are 2 atoms of oxygen. So a mole of carbon dioxide will contain 1 mole of carbon atoms and 2 moles of oxygen atoms. We can use our periodic table to find out the mass of 1 mole of carbon atoms and also the mass of 1 mole of oxygen atoms. If we again look here, the relative atomic mass of carbon is 12, thus 1 mole of carbon atoms will have a mass of 12 grams. 1 mole of oxygen atoms will have a mass of 16 grams. We can write an equation for the total mass of 1 mole of carbon dioxide. 1 times the mass of 1 mole of carbon atoms plus 2 times the mass of 1 mole of oxygen atoms will give us the total mass of 1 mole of carbon dioxide molecules. Again, we can put these 2 values here into our equation here and work out that the total mass of 1 mole of carbon dioxide is equal to 12 times 1 plus 16 times 2, giving us a total of 44 grams per mole of carbon dioxide. Well done if you correctly calculated the value for 1 mole of carbon dioxide. If not, have another go with the next question. What is the symbol for fluorine? Is it F or FL? Using your periodic table, hopefully you've identified it as the letter F. FL is fluoruvium. The reason I mentioned this is often students get this wrong and lose easy marks when writing the formula for compounds containing fluorine, whose symbol obviously can be found very easily on the periodic table. What is the mass of 1 mole of fluorine molecules? Pause it, try calculating the answer to this question and then hit play again. The formula for a fluorine molecule is F2, which means for every fluorine molecule there are 2 atoms of fluorine. So a mole of fluorine molecules will contain 2 moles of fluorine atoms. Using our periodic table, we can find out the mass of 1 mole of fluorine atoms. So 1 mole of fluorine atoms will have a mass of 19 grams. We can write the equation for the mass of 1 mole of fluorine molecules. 2 times the mass of 1 mole of fluorine atoms will give us a total mass of 1 mole of fluorine molecules. Thus, the mass of 1 mole of fluorine molecules is equal to 19 grams times 2, giving a total mass of 38 grams per mole of fluorine molecules. Well done if you managed to correctly calculate the mass of 1 mole of fluorine molecules. If you didn't, hopefully you will have more success with the next question. What is the mass of 2 moles of calcium carbonate? So far we've looked at calculating the mass of 1 mole of an element or a compound. Here we are asked for 2 moles, so what we can do is calculate the mass of 1 mole of a compound and then multiply the final answer by 2. If you know the formula for calcium carbonate, well done. If not, in many questions the formula will actually be given to you. So the formula for calcium carbonate is CaCO3. This means that 1 mole of calcium carbonate will consist of 1 mole of calcium, 1 mole of carbon and 3 moles of oxygen. 1 mole of calcium will have a mass of 40 grams, 1 mole of carbon will have a mass of 12 grams, and 1 mole of oxygen will have a mass of 16 grams. Thus, the mass of 1 mole of calcium carbonate will be equal to 1 times the mass of 1 mole of calcium atoms plus 1 times the mass of 1 mole of carbon atoms plus 3 times the mass of 1 mole of oxygen atoms. I put quote marks around the word atoms because hopefully you know that calcium carbonate is an ionic compound consisting of Ca2 plus ions and CO32 minus ions. So the mass of 1 mole of calcium carbonate will be equal to 40 grams plus 12 grams plus 16 grams times 3, giving us a total mass of 100 grams per mole of calcium carbonate. The question states, what is the mass of 2 moles of calcium carbonate? So if 1 mole of calcium carbonate weighs 100 grams, 2 moles of calcium carbonate will weigh 200 grams. Now, try completing the associated quizzes. Good luck!